Now next we are going to discuss about spinal cord, a brief introduction, and then we are going to understand its structure in detail. So what is the introduction all about? First thing is that it is part of central nervous system. It is connected to the brain through brain stem. So it is connected to the brain's part, that is thalamus is being connected to the spinal cord by a part known as brainstem. We have talked about that as well. So now we are going to discuss about spinal cord, what it is basically. As it is part of central nervous system, so this will not comprise of nerves first of all. Secondly, it connects the central nervous system, that is brain basically, to the entire nerve system of our body. And thirdly, this is present in the vertebral column. You know that spinal cord is housed in the vertebral column, and the spinal nerves which originate from that, they are also named according to the vertebral column. So we have our spinal cord divided into certain regions, that is, first one is cervical part, then we have second part happens to be thoracic part, third is lumbar, fourth is sacral, and fifth is coccygeal. So this name is derived from the part of vertebral column itself. So we have the spinal cord divided into these parts as it is located inside the vertebral column. Talking about its thickness is around 42 to 45 centimeter, its length is 42 to 45 centimeter and its thickness is around 2 centimeter, and it gets broader in the region of thoracic and lumbar area. So basically, if we have to take an average of the thickness, that would be 2 centimeter of thickness. Another point that you have to remember is that the growth of spinal cord, unlike brain's growth continues till 14 years of age. Its growth, spinal cord's growth, when we are talking about, it stops at the age of 4 to 5 years, and we have the vertebral columns arrangement in such a pattern so that spinal cord is protected, because it is an integral part of central nervous system, and more importantly, it is the crucial link between brain and nerves, the nerves which are spread throughout the body. So the entire perception and information that is to be processed, that would be taken care by central nervous system, but the stimulus part that is to be taken from the environment, that would be taken by nerves, and the nerves would be connected to brain by a spinal cord. And talking about its structure, just a brief introduction. We are not going to get into thick of things in this lesson. We will have a better understanding in the next lesson, but for now we need to know that our spinal cord varies from brain in one way, which we are going to understand once we get familiar with what is its basic structure. So its basic structure is, it is having a central core which is made up of grey matter, and the outer layer which is made up of white matter. Now here the difference lies. In the case of brain, it is opposite. The white matter, it lies inside, while the grey matter lies outside. While in the case of spinal cord, it is opposite. The grey matter, which forms the central core of spinal cord, comprises of nerve cell bodies, the dendrites, and the various synapses which are taking place. And the outer layers, it comprises of white matter, which comprises of the myelin sheaths. This white matter appears whitish because of the myelin sheaths of the axons which are present over there. So as it is mentioned, I am going to tell you that it looks like a butterfly, though not properly butterfly. You can say that a super dilated sort of H it looks like. It's like this, something like this. Okay, then we have bulbous part like this. This, what I am representing with the red felt pen, is the grey matter, and as you can see over here, it somewhat resembles like horns. It is like a horn of an animal. So these parts are known as horns. So we have, this is also a horn, this is also a horn, these 4 horns are present, and outside to it lies the white matter. Outside to this, there would be presence of white matter. This is just a simplest representation of spinal cord like this. So it might not look like H, nowhere closer to an H, but this is what a spinal cord basically looks like. This internal part is the grey matter, and the outer one, this one, is the white matter. Now, internal part will have the neurons, it will have the cell bodies of the neurons, it will have the dendrites, and the outer one would be whitish due to the myelin sheaths which are present. Alright, next thing you need to know about the structure of spinal cord. This is, we are talking about cross section. Please remember that this is the cross section of spinal cord that we are seeing. So, like supposedly a person is standing like this, you are seeing its spinal cord like this. This is the cross section. You are seeing it in this pattern, and here lies the grey matter and outer to it lies the white matter. Quite repeated thing. Now, next thing that you have to remember and understand is that these this grey matter is identified by presence of horns. There are horns which are present, and there are anterior grey horns and posterior grey horns, and apart from there we have lateral grey horns as well. I will come to what is lateral grey horns and where they would be found, but for once you need to know that anterior or the ventral grey horn. You know, ventral side is the one which faces when the animal is in motion towards the earth. So basically the ventral part has these anterior grey horns that we are talking. If I am seeing an individual like this and this is the cross section, so this would be the ventral side, these are the ventral horns or the anterior horns, and these are the posterior or the dorsal horns. Apart from these horns, at times there could be a lateral bulging out of the grey matter which would be known as lateral grey horn, and it is present in thoracic. Only these lateral grey horns would be found in the thoracic, upper lumbar and sacral regions of spinal cord. So these are the parts of the grey matter, and white matter, as you can say, it would give rise to certain ganglions that we are going to see in the proper presentation of the structure of spinal cord. So basically you have been well introduced now by this lesson that what is the purpose of spinal cord, that you know that it is connecting the brain with the nerves which are spread out throughout the body. And secondly, you have to remember that how its cross section looks like, a rough idea of the cross section that we get over here. Then it is opposite to the arrangement of the core and outer layer as seen in the case of brain. So a brief introduction to spinal cord, I guess this much is enough. We are going to see next the proper description and idea of the structure of spinal cord.